That question I ask myself every single day. How can Gus, this sweet, incredible dog, still offer such complete, gentle trust to me, Eleanor, after all his past trauma? It's a miracle. We found him near the Green Pines Nature Preserve just after my husband passed. I went to leave that day, and that's when it all started. I had only meant to feed him. I was in a difficult season of life, navigating the immense, suffocating silence of my big North Carolina house. My husband, bless his heart, had passed just 6 months prior. I wasn't looking for a replacement companion. I had Daisy, my old girl, my constant shadow for 9 years. My heart just couldn't handle another loss. The message I received was simple. Big dog, looks skinny, sleeping on the concrete loading dock at the preserve, too scared to come out. I'm retired, I had time, and I had a bag of high-quality kibble. I figured I'd drive out, drop off the food, and alert the local animal control. My involvement would be over. When I first saw him, the sight was heartbreaking. He was curled into a ball on a cold, damp slab of cracked concrete, right where the trucks used to unload lumber years ago. He was massive, probably a mix of several strong, beautiful breeds, a solid, powerful dog. But he was just a shell. I approached slowly. I placed the food down. He didn't rush. He watched me, his big eyes wide and cautious, but not aggressive. When I knelt down, he walked right up to me. He didn't sniff the food first. He nudged his huge head right into my chest, hard. He wanted contact. He wanted assurance. As I gently stroked his broad back, he made the noise. It was a high-pitched, almost squealing sound. It was the sound of very excited happiness, yes, but underneath it, there was a tremor, a quaver that sounded exactly like crying. It was joy mixed with sheer, desperate relief. I spent 10 minutes with him. I gave him some water. Then I decided I had done my part. I got into my silver SUV. I put the keys in the ignition. And Gus, he saw the movement. He didn't bark. He didn't run away. He moved with a speed and calculation I didn't know he possessed. Before I could even turn the key, he darted underneath the back of my car. I couldn't move. I physically could not start the engine. He was pressed against the axle, his body positioned to ensure I would drive right over him if I tried to pull away. I got out. I knelt down in the damp, musty dirt. I shone my phone flashlight under the chassis. He looked up at me through the dirty wheel well. His eyes weren't angry. They were filled with absolute, profound panic. He was saying, "Please, don't leave me again." I was trapped. I had to make a decision right then and there. I knew he was giving me a choice, and it was a test of humanity. I reached under the car. I whispered his name for the first time, Gus. You need to see what happened next. You need to see the choice I made for him. I called a friend with a tow strap. We gently pulled my SUV forward just enough for Gus to wriggle out. He came out slowly, but immediately pressed himself against my leg. The decision was made. I couldn't abandon a creature who had risked his life just to stay by mine. He was coming home. We called him Gus. It was a name that sounded strong but gentle, like he was. He stayed, but he was a different dog indoors. He moved cautiously, always watching the exits. He'd jump at the sudden clatter of a dish. The constant low-level anxiety was palpable. I took him to Dr. Miller, our compassionate family vet for 20 years. That's when the reality of Gus's past hit me like a train. Dr. Miller, a woman who had seen everything, was meticulous. Gus shook slightly throughout the examination. She ran x-rays. She called me into her office, her face solemn. "Eleanor," she began, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Gus has an old injury on his hind leg, untreated. A clean break that healed badly, likely causing chronic pain. But that's manageable." She continued, "The real damage is psychological. The fear he has of loud, sudden noises, banging doors, car backfires, anything percussive is more than just a phobia. It's a textbook response to consistent, severe abuse. This dog wasn't just neglected, Eleanor. He was taught to be afraid." She looked straight at me, her eyes drilling into mine. This dog is a survivor. He's a deer who had outrun the lion. He is gentle, but the scars are deep. We have to treat him as a healing victim, not just a stray. I felt a wave of nausea. Someone had hurt this sweet, beautiful dog. Someone had taken his power away. But the physical pain and the abuse confirmation were only half the wound. What really broke my heart was the judgment from the outside. We were walking one day, just a quiet stroll in the leafy neighborhood. He was on a sturdy leash, walking perfectly at my heel. We passed Mrs. Henderson, who had lived here longer than anyone, meticulously tending her prize-winning azaleas. She stopped me, her expression pinched. "Eleanor," she said, her voice dripping with artificial concern. "That dog is too big. Look at his jawline. He looks like a fighting dog, dear. You can't trust those kinds of rescues. You know what they say. Think of your sweet Daisy." It was poison. That judgment, that raw prejudice based purely on his size and his visible strength, judging him based on some ugly stereotype. Gus looked right up at me. He could feel the tension in the leash. He could hear the hostile tone. He quietly dropped his massive head down to my knee and stayed there trembling faintly. It made me sick to my stomach. Gus was terrified of everything, yet people were judging him as a threat. The battle wasn't just to heal his leg. It was to heal his reputation and prove their ugly assumptions wrong. I want to share the hateful words an older woman in our community said to me about Gus. But those words were nothing compared to what I saw him do to himself later. The first few weeks were a delicate dance of management. Gus slowly learned the rhythm of the house. He learned Daisy's boundaries, which were few, but fiercely respected. He was the most affectionate dog I had ever known. He was a creature of constant physical contact. When I sat down, he was there. When I slept, he was there. His head was my permanent pillow. This wasn't just love, it was survival. It was a desperate plea for security. He was very, very loving, but it was all laced with insecurity. He would follow me into the garden, into the kitchen, even standing patiently outside the bathroom door. Anywhere I went, he was there, trying to participate. He was a good boy, he was a grateful boy, but he was also a nervous wreck. I noticed his social awkwardness most when I tried to introduce him to a little bit of normalcy. I didn't take him to a scary, bustling city dog park. I organized a small gathering in our own sunny backyard, just a few close neighbors and their friendly, well-adjusted dogs. Gus froze immediately. He stood absolutely stock still near the porch railing, looking out at the small group with wide, frightened eyes. He didn't know the rules of play. All he knew were the rules of survival, submission, silence, and staying out of the way. My heart ached for him. I saw the pure, innocent desire to join in, but his past held him prisoner. I tried to get him involved gently. I rolled a bright, slightly worn tennis ball to him. He was a big, powerful dog, and the impulse was instant. He picked it up gently, starting to wag his tail for the first time that day. That little whimper of pure joy, that sound that was finally more joy than sorrow, returned. But then Daisy walked over. My old girl. Daisy just wanted to see what he had. She walked up to him, her tail giving a slow, easy thump-thump against the grass. No aggression, just curiosity. Gus. He saw Daisy approaching. He saw the slight movement of a dog coming towards his prized possession. The sound of pure joy was instantly cut off. Gus didn't growl. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even drop the ball. He spit it out, as if it were burning his mouth. Then, with a speed that spoke volumes about his past conditioning, he rolled onto his back. He exposed his throat. He whined, a sound of utter, heartbreaking surrender. He was saying, take it all. You can have the ball, you can have the space, you can have the authority. Just please don't hurt me. It was a reflex, a deep, ingrained mechanism from his past. He assumed dominance meant violence. He assumed play was a trap. The neighbors looked away awkwardly, not understanding the depth of the trauma they had just witnessed. They just saw a dog being strangely submissive. But I got it. I saw the real pain. This wasn't about a silly toy. This was about Gus realizing that in his world, you only got to live if you relinquished everything you had. This is the moment I knew he would never truly heal until I showed him the meaning of true, unconditional love. Keep watching, because the biggest twist in his recovery happens at night. The incident with the tennis ball sent Gus back a few steps. He became clingier. The fear was thick again. I knew I needed to find a way to rebuild his confidence. But how do you teach a survivor that the fight is over? The nights were always the hardest. The thunder reminded him of something terrible, something he could never fully escape. He would shake beside my bed, his big head always on my shoulder. It was his anchor. My presence was the only thing that could ground him. We were sound asleep. It was late, sometime around 2 a.m. A massive thunderstorm rolled in, shaking the foundation of the house. The rain was torrential, drumming on the roof and the gutters. I was awake, soothing Gus's low whines, anticipating the panic. And then, there was a sharp, loud crash. Not thunder, it was closer. It was a sound of splintering wood. Right outside, I jolted awake. Gus was usually a ball of terror, hidden, frozen, but not this time. He was instantly off the bed. He was at the window. He was standing guard. He was looking out at the dark, storm-swept yard, his body rigid and alert. He was emitting a low, guttural sound I had never heard before. It wasn't the terrified whine of a victim. It was a bark of warning, a bark of protection. He stood squarely between me, the sleeping Daisy, and the window. I realized the crash had been a massive branch falling from the old oak tree onto my porch roof. Dangerous, yes, but not a threat. Yet in that moment, the most terrified, submissive dog in the world became my defender. He was terrified, yes, but he was more dedicated to protecting his new family. He overcame his paralyzing phobia of loud, sudden noises because his purpose had shifted. He had realized he had someone worth fighting for. The victim became the defender. That realization was the most powerful medicine he could ever receive. He didn't need to be saved anymore. He needed to save. The biggest struggle was over, but the true healing, the moment he finally accepted joy, was still to come. After that night, the fear didn't vanish, but it was eclipsed by his loyalty. He was still cautious, still the most polite dog, but there was a quiet confidence in his steps. But the social hurdle remained. He still wouldn't play with Daisy. He would watch her, respect her, but never engage in the reckless abandon of dog play. The final step was not about fighting or protecting. It was about receiving. I knew the moment had to come from Daisy, not from me. Gus needed to hear the message of safety from one of his own. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon in the backyard. I was gardening, feeling the satisfying ache in my back as I pulled weeds. Gus was lying quietly watching me. Daisy, my old girl, was methodically chewing her favorite well-worn tennis ball in the center of the lawn. I watched them both, my heart full of quiet hope. Daisy stood up. She walked over to Gus. He tensed. His ears swiveled back slightly. I held my breath. Was this the final submission again? Was he going to crumble at the test of his confidence? Daisy stopped right in front of him. She gently nudged the ball out of her mouth. She didn't drop it out of indifference. She presented it. It was a clear, deliberate gift. Then she did something she had never done. She lowered her head and gave Gus a soft, long lick right on his ear. A true, uninhibited act of welcome. An animal's kiss. A sign of full acceptance into the pack. Gus didn't flinch. He didn't roll over. He looked at the ball, then at Daisy, then at me. And in his eyes, I saw it. The fear was gone. He stood up, gave a huge full-body shake, releasing the tension of years of waiting. He gently took the ball, not with submission, but with playful curiosity. Then he let out a joyful, normal bark and started tossing the ball up in the air, catching it with an awkward, goofy zeal. For the first time, his sound was only joy. No crying. I broke down crying. Not out of sadness, but out of the sheer, blinding relief of seeing a broken spirit fully mend. Gus wasn't just a survivor anymore. He was home. He was a son. He paused his play and looked at me, giving me that gentle, familiar look. The look he always gives me when he's uncertain about a sudden noise. Almost like he's asking, "Mama Eleanor, is this okay?" "Yes, my sweet, grateful boy. It's more than okay." It's beautiful. I found you when my own nest was empty, and you were a wounded soul who desperately needed a mother. But you didn't just fill my silence. You taught me that even the deepest, most agonizing human scars, the scars of abandonment and prejudice, can be completely healed by unconditional love and the simple, accepting lick of an elder dog. That's Gus's story. That's how he keeps his trust. Because of Daisy's welcome and the promise I made under my car, if Gus's journey from fear to freedom brought a tear to your eye and hope to your heart, please remember to hit the like button. And I truly want to read your story. What unexpected act of unconditional love healed your heart or your home? Tell me in the comments below. And if you want to see Gus and Daisy's next adventure, maybe their first trip to the local creek, and our continuing work with local rescues, please click the link on the screen to subscribe and watch the next video now. Thank you for watching.